Good afternoon, everybody. This is Andee Williamson. I'm your presenter today for the Counterpoint Tips and Tricks, which is a Coffee with Counterpoint session. Those of you who've attended these before know what that means, but basically that's just a series of webinars that I host for our Counterpoint merchants and our Counterpoint partners. There are currently 122 people logged into this WebEx. That's a pretty big WebEx. I actually had over 200 signed up, so we may get some more people that join us as we move along in today's event. I want to let everyone know that I pressed the record button, so we are recording today's session, and that way if you need to refer back to it or if there's somebody else in your organization that it might be important for you to share this with, there will be a recording of it that will get posted out on the user portal so that you'll have access to it. All right, so just a couple of quick housekeeping items before we officially start. First of all, it looks like most of you are listening to today's session by computer speakers, and that is a perfectly fine way to listen to today's session. But if for some reason your audio gets garbled or you can't hear, just know that if you go back to the email invitation you got when you signed up for this webinar, in fact, most of you probably clicked the link in that to get to today's session. Within the body of that email is a toll-free number and an access code. So there is an alternate way to listen to today's session by dialing in on the telephone. But again, if you can hear just fine through your computer speakers, that is also a great way to listen to today's session. Now, the other thing I want to mention is there is a Q&A manager as part of WebEx. If you look on the upper right side of your screen, you should see a menu option labeled Q&A, and you can send me questions in that Q&A manager. Now, I've designed today's session where I hope to be presenting for about an hour, maybe a little bit less, but somewhere around an hour. And I think I booked this for an hour and a half. So I hope to, at the close of my presentation, see what questions have come in and respond as best I can in the time frame we have to the questions. Any questions I don't get to during the session, I will absolutely work with your NCR partner over the next week to ensure that everybody's questions get answered. The other thing I want to mention is that I know I've got some NCR partners and some NCR employees that are on today's webinar, and if questions arise and I don't know the answer, I certainly would ask you to put answers into the Q&A manager. I'll look for those. So I'd love to take all resources possible. Hey, if it's another user on the call who knows the answer, by all means chime in on that Q&A manager, and I'll share that information back out. All right, there are now 148 of us logged into today's session, and I am ready to get started. Now, as I mentioned, I have been doing the series of webinars for a number of years, and what I try to do is, as I get asked questions, I collect all that information, and, at some point when I get asked the same question multiple times, suddenly say, wait a minute, I think people don't know Counterpoint can do whatever it is I'm being asked about. And so I like to collect that information on an annual basis, and then I put together these sessions. Sometimes I call them the 25 things you didn't know Counterpoint could do. Those take forever to get through, multiple hours. And so this one I'm calling Tips and Tricks, and like I said earlier, I believe I've got 15 or 16 topics to cover. And depending on your questions, again, we'll see where we go. And I did book an hour and a half, and so in my experience is that typically we are going to spend the whole time both on my presentation and on your questions. Now, it's not about PowerPoint today. I do have a PowerPoint to guide me in my presentation so that I'm reminded of the topics. I also have the PowerPoint available. If any of you would like a copy, then just send me an email. I'll put my email address up before we're done, and I'll be happy to send you a copy of the presentation. As I've already mentioned, it's about an hour and a half total, both with my presentation and any Q&A you might have. And I also wanted to give you my goal state for today's session. This is to really broaden your Counterpoint horizons. So my hope is that everybody who's taken their valuable time to come to today's session, that you learn something. I hope everybody learns something that helps them with their Counterpoint system. Some of the items I'm going to talk about today are kind of higher level, and again, not meant for you to leave the call, try to go implement, but rather leave the call going, oh, so you could do that with Counterpoint. Let me call my partner and talk to the partner about, what I'd like to do and to whatever Andee talked about in the session. And your partner is going to be a crucial part of how you take some of these tips and implement them in your companies. And the other thing I mention is if you do decide to go it alone and work with some of the things I'm going to talk about without your partner, which, by the way, I do not recommend. Your partner knows your system and can really help you. But if you decide to play around some, make sure you're doing it in your practice company, not in your live Counterpoint database. So this is the fine print on today's session so that I can make sure you use the information in the best possible way to get you the best possible result. All right, we are now at 161 participants, and I'm going to close that window so I won't know if other people join us. I'm going to get that, though, out of my line of sight so that we can kind of officially start today's session. And so the very first tip that I want to talk about is our new user interface. Now, before I move forward and talking in more detail about the new user interface, I guess that I want to mention that I don't have too many of these tips today that are 8.5 related. Most of what I'm going to talk about you can do in earlier versions of Counterpoint. So anybody hanging up thinking, oh, this is just about new features in Counterpoint, it's not. It's about your entire Counterpoint system. But I thought it would be remiss to have this opportunity in front of all of you and not show you our new version, 8.5.3, and the new user interface. So I am actually going to share my desktop, and I am going to show you this new user interface. In fact, I don't already have it launched for a reason. It's because part of the new user interface is that we've really, first of all, got a new splash screen. You can see I'm using our liquor store splash screen, but we've got a lawn and garden and a market center and a gift shop, and we've got a generic one. And so one of the new things with version 8.5.3 is that if you're in a particular vertical and when you're launching Counterpoint you would like to actually show one of these new splash screens, then you do have that ability to show that. Now, the other thing I wanted to highlight is that when you're logging into Counterpoint in new version, we've consolidated a lot of the screens. If I'm remembering right, in version 8.4, you entered a user ID and password, then another box popped up where you picked the company you wanted to launch. And so what you can see is that we now have the ability to do all those things on one simple screen. Furthermore, I'm using my Memphis GitHub database. I picked one of our local, because I'm located in Memphis, by the way. I picked one of our local Counterpoint users, the Stacks Museum, who I thought was going to attend, but they emailed me right before that they couldn't. But I used their logo to illustrate yet another new feature in version 8.5.3, which is the ability for you to put your logo on this sign-in screen. So again, we've consolidated. We've got a nice new splash screen. Furthermore, you can brand this with your brand by putting your logo right there on this particular sign-in screen. Now, I've got Counterpoint set to prompt me to clock in when I log in. That's actually one of the tips and tricks that I'm not talking about today, but if you didn't know you could do that, then there you go. You might have already learned something. And so if you wanted, folks, your employees to be prompted to automatically clock in when they log in, again, you can easily turn that on. If you don't know how to do that, put something in that Q&A manager, and maybe at the end of the session I can cover that to some level, or at least make sure you get the information when the webinar is over. And in fact, let me mention one thing about that. A lot of people think that the time card that's part of Counterpoint is payroll specific, and it's really not. Now, if you want to track the hours that your employees are working and then export that out, your partner can talk to you about how you take that exported file and potentially bring it into a payroll package or hand it off to a payroll processor. That's certainly one of the things you can do with it. But the other piece of it that I think is valuable that sometimes doesn't, gets lost in the translation is we're tracking the hours worked. We show you through some of our reports that information. In fact, let me give you an example. Under sales history, there's a sales rep productivity report that shows sales by sales rep by the hour. The only way we can show that by the hour piece is if your employees are clocking in and clocking out and we're tracking the hours that they work. Anyway, those of you that know me know that I'm already distracted. I've already gotten off topic. I apologize for that, but I just wanted to share that information. Let's get back to our regularly scheduled programming here, which is me showing you the new user interface. So you are now looking at version 8.5. Actually, we just released 8.5.4 yesterday or a couple of days ago. I am not running that yet. I'm still on 8.5.3, and you've probably noticed immediately that it does not look like your Counterpoint, assuming you're not on this version. And so the first thing I want to point out is that here on the left side of the screen, these are all the different Counterpoint applications. Now, just like you had in the previous versions, if you're using menu codes to restrict what an employee logs in can see or not see, then here on the left, we're only going to be showing those menu options that that employee is allowed to see per their menu code. So I've got everything turned on for today's demo so that hopefully when you ask your questions, I've got things maybe configured to enable for me to get to and show. So again, I've turned on all the different Counterpoint applications here along the left side of the screen. But again, with menu codes, you're able to tailor what shows up here on the left based on who's logging in. Now, also here on the left, once you get familiar with these icons, you'll notice as I'm here on the far left going over the icons, there's flyover text that tells you what they are. Once you're familiar, you can use this menu option here on the upper left to close that, so that if you want to get to any of these things, they're still there, but they take up less room, and so that makes the button here on the right a little bit bigger. Really just an option. Again, I can toggle that back or then turn that off. Now, just to the right of the main menu, on the upper right, you see the recently used area. And so we are constantly building this area. As you go into different Counterpoint applications, then this recently used area changes. Also mention our purpose in redesigning this screen was really twofold. First of all, we wanted to give Counterpoint a more modern look and feel. And so that was certainly part of what we were attempting to do. The other thing we wanted to do is make the Counterpoint menu easier for our merchants to navigate and to find things. And so you can see what all I've been in recently. And so if I wanted to get back into any of these applications, I'd just press the button, click on the button. If I were on a touch screen, touch the button, and then that is going to launch one of these recently used applications. Now, right below recently used, you're going to see your favorites. And favorites are the items that you have selected to click the star on. So I'm here on this View Ticket History. You can see the stars filled in. So it is in my favorites. In fact, if I press the button and just scroll through, well, here it is. I can now see View Ticket History in my favorites. So again, you can use these arrows to move through the different pages. All right. Now, if I wanted to add, for example, the purchasing requests to my favorites, I'd simply click the star. Well, and now it's going to tell me I already have too many, so let me uncheck take inventory analysis reports out of that and come back to add the purchase requests, and you're going to see now that purchase requests is one of my favorites. So again, you can build up to 13 favorites and see them here and easily get to them to make it more simple for you to navigate the screen. Now, here on the upper right side of the screen, you're going to see my favorite new feature, which is the search application. And so I can either click on that looking glass, or I could have pressed Control F, and that would have also launched this looking glass. And so now I can keyword search. If I'm looking for the merchandise analysis report and I forgot that it's located under inventory reports, I can just use this keyword search. Now anything that matches that is going to show up, and I can just click that button to launch, in this example, the merchandise analysis report. Or, if I'm looking for something to do with gift cards, I've got the ability to start typing gift or whatever it is you're looking for. You've got the ability here to keyword search across all the menu options to find what it is you're looking for. I had set up, I believe, here we go. I changed the menu code, not just say view events, but I've got it saying view Andee's events. And so we even honor in this keyword search any changes you might have made to the menu code. And in fact, one of my tips and tricks we're going to get to is how to go into that menu code and make some of these changes. So anyway, I do believe that this new search button is a really valuable new area in version 8.5.3 and higher. All right, just to the right of that search button, you're going to see the clock in and clock out button. Now, as I showed you, you've also got the ability to set it up so when a user logs in, it prompts them to clock in, and when they log out, it prompts them to clock out. But if you're not going to use that capability, then having the time card button here right on the main menu I think is a great addition. So it's simple for an employee to clock in or clock out. To the right of that is the favorites area, where if I wanted to rearrange my favorites, maybe I want Excel to be up here on that first main page of buttons, then I've got the ability to come in here and just rearrange everything. So you'll see now I've put Excel right next to my touch screen. So it's right here on the first page of buttons, which, by the way, might be something else you didn't know you could do with Counterpoint. You can put items on the menu that aren't Counterpoint specific, like Excel. So if I, find myself going to Excel a lot during the course of a day, I've got the ability to put it right on my Counterpoint menu and, again, easily launch it. Right, and then just to the right of that is the Counterpoint Message Center. I certainly hope everybody on the call is already aware of the Message Center. Again, this isn't a new feature. This is something that's been in the product a long time, but it is a great way for you to communicate with employees in your store. If you pick up a new line of merchandise, you might want to send a message to everybody in sales to tell them what the top 5 bullet points are on how to best sell that new line of merchandise. This Message Center does not require the internet. So I know a lot of our merchants use it to send messages because they don't want to give their employees access to the internet. Anyway, since I'm talking about the Message Center, let me just briefly show you that in addition to sending a message, if I come here to the upper left and I start a new message, you can give somebody permission to send that as a pop-up message. And if you send a pop-up message, well, that's going to pop right up on the screen for everybody logged into Counterpoint that you addressed it to. And so I know a lot of our attractions out there, we're in a lot of zoos and aquariums and stadiums. They have this pop-up feature. If a child wanders away from his family, it may be important that you are able to send that pop-up message. Or, maybe there's somebody suspicious in the store and you want to send a pop-up that says, hey, watch out for the person with a giant shopping bag on aisle 6, or, whatever it is. So again, what we've done with this new menu structure is really give you access to a lot of these items. These 3, Clock in, Clock Out, and Message Center, were already features in Counterpoint. The search application and the rearrange favorites, of course, are new with this particular version. Now let's go on and launch one example of what the touchscreen interface might look like. I guess the first thing I want to say is we did give this area a facelift as well. So we have a new touchscreen type called Metro that will change a little bit the look and feel. What we've gone for are flat buttons with white icons to represent whatever the button is going to be doing. So again, this is the look and feel. I believe the other options are still part of 853, so if you wanted to still use that standard option or one of the other button type options, I believe they're still there and you're still able to do that. A couple of other things we added in version 853 is you can now click directly into the customer field. So if you, like me, had a button that you're using to launch the customer area, and now you can reuse that button for something else because, again, we let you just click right in to the customer area, and now I can do my customer lookup or scan the loyalty card or whatever the case might be. Same goes for the sales rep field. So you no longer have to have a separate button to press for sales rep. I can just click directly into the sales rep field to change the sales rep for a ticket. You can see down at the bottom we have a new totals area. We're now using HTML for our totals area, which gives it a different and a new look and feel. Okay, so that is what I wanted to cover as far as the first item on my list. I'm going to pop back over to my PowerPoint and just kind of quickly go through and make sure we've covered everything. I think I did cover all these things, so we're good to go on this first item on the list. And so I'm going to move on to the next item, which is donations. I ask this question a lot. It used to be that our nonprofit customers, our museums, and those folks were the ones who were wanting to be able to take a donation at the point of sale from their, from the folks that are visiting or who are the normal constituents, if you will, of the museum. I'm not sure that's the right word, but hey, it's worth it. But now it's interesting that all of our many of our retailers who aren't a nonprofit are asking this question. In fact, I know my local bakery down the street, when I go in to buy my cupcake, they've got a jar out where every month they have a different local Memphis charity that they're collecting money, and they're going to donate that money. So I do get this question a lot. In fact, the third bullet point, rounding up a ticket, I have to be honest with you all and tell you that I just started working through this application yesterday. So right up front, full disclosure, this is still kind of a work in process to see if we're able to handle this out of the box in Counterpoint. I will tell you that most partners have access to a customization that would let you round up to the next dollar and take that change and use it as a donation. So it's something that you could, some of you may be doing that today because you bought that add-on from your partner. Or again, if my out-of-the-box workaround doesn't work for everybody, then, talk to your partner. That's something that you have access to. But let's get back over to Counterpoint and let's kind of talk through these 3 bullet points on how to potentially use Counterpoint for a donation. So I am going to go back over to Counterpoint, and I'm going to go back to point of sale. So the first thing you could do is you could set up a non-inventory item. I named mine donation, and I actually am prompting for a price. So how much are they donating? Is it, $10? What's the amount of the donation? So that is certainly one way to handle this. The nice thing about using a non-inventory item is you can always go back and look at how much you took in, by looking at the sales, if you will, for that item. I think this is a great way to do it if you're just asking for a donation, a certain dollar amount or a donation. And by the way, you could have different item numbers, different non-inventory item numbers for each denomination. So if you wanted a $1 donation or a $10 donation or so on, then you wouldn't have to have this screen pop up to ask. You could just have it set so that, when you sell that item or touch that button for the $5 donation, it simply, enters that onto the ticket. So that is one way to do that. Another way to enter a donation, I'm going to come down to my More buttons where I've made a donation button here, and that is to use our miscellaneous charges. We give you 5 miscellaneous charges. I called this one a donation. This is not an item. If I decide to, make another $10 donation in this area, what you're going to see is that puts that $10 down here at the bottom. By the way, I see a mistake I made. I made made that donation item taxable, and I shouldn't have. But anyway, that's easy enough to turn off. And if you decide to implement this, you would certainly make it a non-taxable item. And so now you can see that in this miscellaneous charge area, I've got $10. And when I defined that miscellaneous charge area, I had to give some general ledger account numbers so that I can later see how much and, appropriately assign those dollars to the right general ledger account number. Two ways you've been able to do that in Counterpoint for a long time. In fact, I'm going to go on and press my $50 bill button, and we'll complete the sale, and so that I'm able to kind of talk through my idea on how to perhaps do a roundup, which is a little bit different. So let's walk through this. I'm going to sell a couple of items on this ticket. So now my total is $75.88. And if I said, hey, would you like to round up the change for the local charity, whatever it is, or if you are a museum, for the museum, what I did is when I pressed the pay button, I actually set up a payment type called Roundup. It's a cash type, so if you were going to ask for a roundup on a credit card sale, you just set up multiple types of payments for each type of roundup. And so now when I press that button, you're going to see that it rounded up to $76. So it rounded my total up. And so it did it for you. You didn't have to sit and try to figure out, get a calculator out and figure out what the difference is. It did the roundup. So let me talk for just a moment about how I did that. So again, this is something we added in version 8.5. I think it was in 8.5.0, the very first version of 8.5 that came out a couple of years ago. And that is a feature where you're able to set the minimum denomination, and it's based on a currency. So let me explain to you that why we did this feature. So we have a lot of Canadian companies that use Counterpoint, and Canada dropped the penny. So in Canada, we're using Canadian currency. They want their minimum denomination to be a nickel, but they no longer take pennies. So that's why we add the feature. And way, I hear in the USA it costs like a nickel to make a penny, so we may also think about dropping the penny. I don't know. We'll see. But if we do, Counterpoint is ready to go. We've got that feature built in. And so what I did was, let me use my handy-dandy lookup feature here and go find where you set up currency codes. So what I did was I set up a currency code that I called Roundup. And I'm going to select that. I made the rate of exchange dollar for dollar because we're really changing the rate of exchange here on this. But here's kind of the key to it. I made the minimum denomination value $1. So when I select the payment code Roundup Cash, I've said use this currency code for my Roundup Cash, and that's why it rounded it up to $1. So I don't know if Jonathan from the TAC room is on the call right now, but he's the one that sent some of this to me yesterday to try to figure out if this would work as an out-of-the-box solution for this. I'm still kind of vetting whether this is a good way to do it or not, so I'm putting it through some tests. And but I do think that if any of you are interested in taking donations, whether they're for local charities or whether you're a nonprofit, talk to your partner, because these are three ways that I believe you can potentially set Counterpoint up so that you are taking donations. All right, so that was donations. let's move on to pop-up notes and purchasing. So this is a question I was asked not that long ago about reminding a buyer of something during the purchase order process. The exact question in this example, they were selling perfume in the store, and when they order the perfume from the vendor, so they're in purchasing, they also need to order a tester bottle, and they were forgetting to order the test bottle. So this solved the problem for them, and let's kind of talk through what you can do here with with these pop-up notes. Now, let me say that pop-up notes, they're throughout Counterpoint. So there are item pop-up notes, there are customer pop-up notes, there are pop-up notes all throughout Counterpoint, but I think that a lot of people forget that there are pop-up notes for purchasing. I know I've highlighted them in customer pop-up notes in previous sessions, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to share my screen again, and we are going to navigate to, let's go to Setup, Printing, Control, where here you can say for any item has a note labeled PO, I want that note to pop up automatically during purchasing. So I'm back now. What we'll do next is we'll go into the inventory items screen, where I'm going to go find my item, my Elvis scented perfume. I think it smells like peanut butter and maybe, I don't know. And I'm going to come up here to the notes area in the toolbar, and I'm going to go find my note called PO, where I can see it says, don't forget to order the tester. So again, I've got to set this note up, and the note ID has to match the one in that control file. Now, once you've done that, you're now able to come into purchase requests and enter a new purchase request. And what we're going to do is we're going to auto-assign the purchase order number. I'm going to tell it who the vendor is. I'm going to come over to the Lines tab and go find that perfume, and you're going to see the note pops up. So again, to solve the problem for the customer whose buyers kept forgetting to order the testers that come with the perfume that they sell. So I thought that was a good one to share with everybody. I am going to get back over to my PowerPoint, and we're going to look at what's next. And next I wanted to talk about customizing toolbars. So let me share Counterpoint again. So I'm going to come back over and share my screen again. And let's go into inventory and look at this one. Pull up my shirt, my Elvis Original T-shirt. Okay, so here across the top is toolbar that I'm talking about. By the way, when you're in customers, really when you're in just about any form in Counterpoint, you're going to see a toolbar across the top. And if I right-click, I've got the ability to choose to customize the toolbar. So I'm going to go on and select to customize it. I notice there's 3 tabs, toolbars, commands, and options. I'm going to come to commands, and as I step through each of these categories below, you'll see here on the right different things pop up that I could add to the toolbar. In fact, here under data, I'm going to come grab first item and put it right here beside the left arrow, and I'm going to go find last item and put it right here to the right. Now I'm going to close and save this. By the way, if I save it as my default, I think that's a workstation specific. I could also save toolbars and relaunch, I believe. I can't do that. Actually, scratch that. I want to say, though, over in the system-wide area, there is a toolbar area. So if you don't want to go in and change toolbars one at a time, kind of like I'm doing now, you'd rather do it more globally, there is a way to do that. So now what I've done is I've added a first and a last. So if I want to hit the first button, that's going to take me to the very first item in my item record. And if I hit the last, that's going to take me to the very last item in my item record. And so you're able to see how you could change the toolbar to make it more applicable to what you're doing. Now, I want to put my T-shirt back up on the screen for a second because I kind of want to take this feature and ability to another level. And that level is, you'll see that here I've added the inventory availability report to my toolbar. This is something that I think most of you would probably want to engage your partners to help you with. But I'll tell you, it really wasn't very hard. And I'm not a technical person. For those of you that don't know me, I'm really a product person and a sales person, so I am not a technical person at all, except maybe a little by osmosis. And I was able to follow the instructions in the training manual and add this report to the toolbar. So it's really not that difficult. But again, in an effort to broaden your Counterpoint horizons, I wanted to show you this as well. So as soon as I launch the report that I've added to the toolbar, what's going to happen is kind of neat. It's going to immediately be filtering that report for the item that I had opened. So that's one of the advantages to putting a report on a toolbar is if there is data on that form. So in this example, I had that Elvis Original T-shirt on the form. The report is preset to filter to that item. By the way, if you didn't know about this report, it's a report that's normally over in inventory reports, and it's a way to see by size and color what you've got available. So now I'm looking at that Elvis Original T-shirt because that's the only one I was filtering on. I'm able to see the different size color combinations and what I've got available to sell. By the way, I'm also looking at this in a receipt format. You could put this on a button at point of sale, so if somebody, if they came in and they were looking for a black medium shirt, souvenir T-shirt to take home, you'd have an easy way to go see what you have available on that particular size color combination. All righty then. I actually hope you guys are learning something. I'm going to get back over and share my PowerPoint again, and we're going to move on to the next item on the list, which is pie charts, or as we say here in the South, pie charts. And so let me pop back over to Counterpoint because I think this one is best explained by showing it. So I'm going to get back over to Counterpoint, and I am going to bring up the merchandise analysis report. I mean, any of our reports that let you add a pie chart, you have got the ability to do what I'm about to show you, and I think I've got, my sales by category is really just the merchandise analysis report that I've pre-filtered to group by category, showing my top 5, but here you can see that I've added the pie chart. So I'm going to go on and preview this and show you that out of the box, if you've been adding the pie chart to any of your reports, you're going to see a particular metric associated with the pie chart. So in this report, I'm showing my categories, my top 5 categories, ranked based on quantity sold here in the pie chart. So I can see here that art is my top category in my Memphis gift shop so far this year because I was running this report for year to date, where down here on the bottom of the report, I was grouping by category showing my top 5 ranked based on sales. Where I'm ranking it based on sales, I can see clothing or apparel is my top category. And so the pie chart's nice because it gives you another metric kind of compare and contrast with, art's my top when I'm selling based on quantity sold, and apparel's my top when I'm selling based on sales dollars. But the piece that people didn't realize you could change is if I would rather pie chart on something other than quantity sold, all I have to do in the report is go to the Select Columns tab. And we are always going to pie chart on the top visible column. That's why quantity sold was what we were creating the pie chart based on. If I would rather make the pie chart based on profit, I can just highlight profit and move it to the top. And now when I run that report again, I'm now basing my pie chart on profit, where I can see that apparel is my most profitable category this year. So again, just a small tidbit of information that it seemed a lot of folks out there didn't realize that they had the ability to really change what metric that pie chart was going to be based on. All right, so let me get back over my PowerPoint and we'll move right along to the next topic. This is the Min-Max Advice Report. Now, this is one that we added in version 8.5, and specifically in version 8.5.2. So what I'm going to do, let me just go over these bullet points first. So it's a new report. It shows you what Counterpoint thinks your min and max levels should be, and we base that on days of supply. And then the most important piece is we actually write the data into the min-max fields. We track min-max for every item at every location. So sometimes I'll talk to merchants who have Counterpoint, and they won't be using min-max because there was a lot of labor involved in setting those min and max fields for every item at every location. And report is really a big help because we will actually write that data. So let me share my screen and let's go take a look at that min-max advice report. I see I have it here under my favorites, so let me find it. Of course, I could just use that handy-dandy lookup feature too. So this is the Min-Max Advice Report. Just like all Counterpoint reports, you've always the ability to order the report in a few different flavors. There are two tabs. We're on the Parameters tab. There's also an Item tab where I've said, let's just look at my main location, but I could look at all locations or a group of stores. Down under Dates, I'm just looking at last year, but again, I can plug in a date range, any random date range I want. And then here on the right, I'm just looking for a 30-day supply. So maybe I'm a lawn and garden center, and if we roll the clock back and we say that I'm in August or September, which is when I would normally order my Christmas trees, if I do a Christmas tree business during the holidays, and maybe I only want a 30-day supply of Christmas trees. So I've made the min and max the same. Now, those could be different numbers, and that's okay too. I just wanted to show this in a way that I thought would be simple for everybody to understand. So I'm saying, what should my min and max numbers be if I want a 30-day supply? And I'm going to look at the rate of sales during this time period I plugged in to figure out what that my min and max to have a 30-day supply. Now, I'm just doing this, I think, for category music. I think there's only one item that's going to show up because, again, I wanted to keep this simple to show what it's supposed to do. So I'm going to go on and preview this report. And so what you're going to see is that in the date range I entered, I think that was all of 2016, I sold almost 1.3 of this Essential Elvis CD every day. I currently have 49 on hand, which gives me a 37-day supply. And so that's why my old and my suggested are the same, because it's not going to suggest I change anything. I'm probably more than a 30-day supply on hand already, and so maybe I wouldn't want to change my min-max numbers based on that. So hopefully that makes some sense how we calculate that. Now let's close that and let's change it. Let's do something different. Let's make it a 60-day supply, for example, and see what changes there. We could also plug in some lead time. Maybe it takes that vendor 45 days to get me the essential Elvis CD, and so I want to factor that into the calculation as well. And so when I preview now, you're going to see the numbers have changed. It knows, I said I wanted a 60-day supply and that it takes the vendor 45 days to get it to me, and so now it's suggesting because of that I changed my min-max to 136. Hopefully that makes sense to everybody. The really great thing is this apply button here at the bottom. If I press that, it is actually going to update that record with the new min-max numbers. So again, you've got the ability to have more than one item. I just picked one item to keep it simple and just show the calculation and what we were doing. Again, I press the apply button, but if I did, it would actually update the min-max area. It does look like we've got some questions coming in. I'm going to get to those shortly, and we'll see how many we can cover before we're done today. All right, so let's move on to the next item. That is the group tag-along kit. This is also something we added in version 8.5. I think it was literally 8.5.0. This was in the early life of version 8.5. And so let's get back over. I think I can show this one easier than I can talk through it. So I'm going to get back into Counterpoint. And let's go just directly into point of sale to take a look at this one. So first of all, for those of you on the call just not familiar with kits at all, let me just say that Counterpoint has a lot of different kit types. And by a kit, I'm talking about bundling items together. We've had the ability to do what we call a tag-along kit for a long time. And let's take a look at that feature. If I come to my Elvis prints and I sell my Elvis with guitar print, this is an example of a tag-along kit where I said this Elvis print, when I sell it, I want to prompt the salesperson to ask the customer, hey, would you like a frame to go with your photo print? If the customer says, oh, what a great idea, of course I want a frame, all you have to do is hit the yes button, and that's going to add the frame to the ticket. So this is now a tag-along kit. That's how I attach the frame to the print. You'll notice that each of these items on the ticket are separate. They each have their own price. They're separate. So once the tag-along kit did its job, now these items are just items on the ticket. And if the customer, before sale finish, said, you know what, I changed my mind, I don't want that frame, all I'd have to do is highlight it and press the void line button. As long as I had permission to void the line, I could just take that right off the ticket. So that's how tag-along kits always work. Now, what's new in version 8.5, when I press the home button, get back to my main page, I'm going to sell this bottle of water, which, by the way, I sell by the unit. So I'm going to sell one bottle of water, and you're going to see another type of tag-along kit. This is the group tag-along kit where I didn't prompt for the upsell of the bottle deposit because guess what? In the states that require a bottle deposit, you're not asking them, you're telling them that when you buy this bottle of water, you also have to pay this bottle deposit. But you'll notice the bottle deposit is indented. So that's an indication that it is a group tag-along kit. And really what that means is that it is grouped to that water bottle. If somebody tried to void the bottle deposit off the ticket, it's going to take the bottle of water with it. So again, a great feature. All of our kit features are fantastic. A regular tag-along kit can let you try to upsell the ticket. A group tag-along kit will now allow you to group components together and permanently affix them to the parent of the kit. Let's talk about menu codes. I've mentioned them briefly already a couple of times. And so let me tell you the scenario that this one came up. I had a customer who was running multiple companies in Counterpoint. So if you didn't know that was a feature of Counterpoint, yes, you can run multiple companies, which is different than multiple stores. I think in their example, they had a bicycle shop and a shop that sold ground coffee, if I remember that right. And so they were two different companies. And what was happening is he was launching both two instances of Counterpoint on his desktop. One was the bike store and one was the coffee shop. And let's go back over to Counterpoint and I'll kind of show you what his problem was with that. So let's go inventory items. And what you're going to see when I launch the inventory items screen is that up in the upper left, it just said items. So once he had launched the two companies and he had two item records open, he couldn't easily tell which one was for the coffee shop and which one was for the bike store. And so what we did is we went to menu codes, and in fact, I'm going to use this great new keyword search to go find my menu codes. I'm on my Coffee with Counterpoint menu code, so I'm going to go find that. Here on the right is the normal default Counterpoint menu. Here on the left is my custom menu for when I log in with this menu code. So I'm going to come to inventory items, and I'm going to change this form caption to say Memphis gift shop. In fact, if you wanted to, we could, just copy this, and you could make that menu caption and the button caption. I mean, you can make all kinds of changes like that if you want to. I'm now going to close and save that. And now, when I go back into the inventory item area, just a second. And close that down and come to my, bear with me, I'm sure this is operate. Oh, this is so funny. It's because I changed it. It didn't look right to me. I made it say Memphis gift shop. That's so funny. Operator error. And so, yeah, maybe you don't want to change the actual button text because then you don't recognize it anymore. But here's the thing. This solved his problem because now when he had, the bike shop open and the coffee shop open, he was able to differentiate which one matched which company. So that's great. I love so funny. I confused myself on that. All right, let's get back over to the PowerPoint and see what we've got left. Okay, this is playing a sound for item not on file. So the problem description was at point of sale. The salesperson wasn't looking at the point of sale screen. They were just scanning items, and maybe one of those items had thrown up a message that said, item not on file, but the person hadn't looking at the screen, and we do play the Windows critical beep when that happens, but, that becomes white noise to people, so we're always, playing sounds, and so that it became white noise to them. So what we figured out that worked for them, and in fact, let me share my screen again. And in fact, what I'm going to need to do is bear with me. I'm going to make sure my sound is on. It wasn't, so I'm going to turn it on. Up. Yep, ding! We can hear something immediately. And let's go into point of sale, and let's say that, we typed an item that's not on file in. Listen to what is now going to happen. So I made the WAV file, instead of playing the Windows critical beep, I made it play Dixie. That just happened to be the WAV file that I had available. And so what you want is you want to play something that's going to get their attention, right? And so anyway, wanted to let you know that you do have the ability, and now this is more through Windows than Counterpoint, but you would just basically go over to the control panel and find the sound area, and then you're going to look for the Windows critical beep. Come over here to sounds, and I believe it's here on the sound tab, and so yep, I just found it took me a little bit to figure out which sounds did which things. Again, as I kind of scroll through here we go. This is the one that plays Dixie. So it was the critical stop that it used to play the standard sound that Windows would play, but now there you go. It plays the horn that blows Dixie. So just some ideas on ways that might help you in that area. Let's get back over to the PowerPoint and see what else we have. I know I thought my presentation was going to take about an hour, and we're 2 minutes past. So I've got add items and purchasing. I've just got a few more, and then we'll get to your Q&A. Again, this may take a little longer than I thought. Sorry. So add items and purchasing. Let's pop back over to Counterpoint and go take a look at the Add Items feature in purchasing. I actually think this is a fantastic feature that a lot of people don't realize is there. And so I'm going to come to Purchasing, Requests, and enter a new purchase request. I'm going to auto-assign the purchase order number. I'm going to tell Counterpoint what vendor this is for. And I'm just going to come right over to the Lines tab. So I'm entering a purchase request to this vendor Cameo Accessories, and here's the Add Items feature that I think a lot of people don't realize we have. When I press that button, first of all, it's going to prompt me to save anything I've put into the purchase request already. So I'm going to say, yep, save my changes there, and then it's going to launch this worksheet. By the way, I'm going to go turn sounds back off so we don't have horns blowing Dixie and other things going on. All right, so I've got this worksheet now going because I pressed the Add Items button, and the worksheet knows that I'm entering a purchase order for Cameo Accessories for my main location. And depending on how I check mark and filter in this area, what's going to happen is if I just say, yep, let's go see what I need from this vendor based on my min and max. Now, I could base it on replenishment or days of supply or customer special orders, but I'm just going to hit the next button at the bottom. It's me, I didn't filter on much, but that's okay. And voila, what it's now showing me is what I need to order from this vendor based on the filter criteria that I set. Now, I said when it was a gridded item, show every line, every size, color combination line separately. There was an option here on this set filter where I could have said, or I could have checked this and just create one cell, but again, I had said to go on and, show them all broken out separately. And furthermore, here at the top, you can use the column designer to help design the right data so your buyers can make good buying decisions. In fact, let's launch the column designer, and what is it that would be important for a buyer to see? Maybe the last sale date of the item. That's probably something good, so that if I haven't sold it in a long time, maybe I shouldn't reorder it, right? So now I've got the last sale date. As I scroll down, I can see these things. Actually, if I wanted to, I could right-click and sort descending or ascending here, and so I can kind of get all those grouped together where I can see that, oh, well, these I've sold this year. These top two I haven't sold this year. And then in the upper right, select all, or I can selectively check mark here on the left those items that I want to put onto the purchase request. So once I've either selected all or selectively, created the ones I want to put on, down here on the bottom I can say, let's add these lines and close this worksheet. Now, because some of these were gridded items, it's asking me, do I want to keep them separate from the purchase request or do I want to consolidate them? Let's go in and say to consolidate them. And what you're going to see is that I just added these items to the purchase request using that worksheet. If I go up and click on one of the grid items that's said to consolidate, I've always got this button here, down here to the right of quantity. So if I now wanted to see the breakdown of the 70 I'm ordering, I can see that here. I can see I'm getting 56 black extra large and 14 red extra small. And so, again, I think the add items feature is a great feature that I think sometimes gets overlooked. So make sure you all knew about it. This one, I'm not going to go anywhere. I'm just going to talk to this slide real briefly. Most of today's session is meant to teach you things that the system you already own can do for you. I'm not really trying to sell you anything new on this call. But, again, it's one of these things where I felt that it was important that everyone know that we've got the Smart Alerts SaaS add-on. It does cost extra, but it's not much. It's like $20 for the first store, $10 for each additional store, and there are about 30 different alerts you can set so that you get a text or an email that lets you know what things have fallen out of the normal range. So you're able to set the thresholds. In fact, let me give you an example. Let's say that you have a concern about loss prevention and you want to get a text or an email if there are more than 10 voided tickets in an hour. So you would set that threshold if there's 10 voided hours and 10 voided tickets in the 60-minute time period, then send a text or an email to these subscribers or these different people. And so, again, about 30 different alerts that you can set. The one I'm highlighting here is the flash sales report. This is what it looks like on your phone if you're getting it by text. Basically, at the end of every day, you're able to get this report sent to you automatically so that you can kind of see the high-level sales profit, average ticket, refund margins, number of tickets. Again, the high-level information is sent via text or email automatically at the end of every day. So I think Smart Alerts is fantastic. If you want to know more about it, contact your partner or me, and I'll be happy to share with you. By the way, speaking of contacting me, here's my email address, andee.williamson@ncr.com. So again, your partner should be your first line for anything support-related, anything product-related, but know that I'm here as well. If you are trying to figure out how to do X, Y, or Z, and it's not a support you, it's just hey, I'm looking for a report that has these columns on it or whatever it is, you can email me, and when I respond, I'm going to copy in your partner. If I know the answer, I'll give it to you. If I don't know the answer, then it'll go back to the partner who can help you with it. But I certainly can be used as a resource of some sort, again, with your partner always being the primary. But I also wanted you to know there are other resources available to you. So we've got our public website, counterpointpos.com. That's got a lot of good information on it. We also have a user portal. In fact, let me and share my desktop again, only this time I'm just going to go out to the World Wide Web, and I'm going to go actually first to our public website, www.counterpointpos.com. And again, there is some information out here that you might find valuable. But if you're trying to get to the user portal, you would always start here, and then on the upper right, you would click this user login. And when you do that, it's going to ask you to enter your Counterpoint serial number and your zip code if you're in the U.S. or your postal code if you're in Canada. Because I'm an NCR employee and logged into our network right now, I've kind of got an easier way to log in myself. But what you're going to see once you get in is if you wanted to, for example, now go sign up for Smart Alerts, because I just showed it to you, you've got the ability to come in and see more about Smart Alerts and sign up for it in this area. Under Training, if you come down to e-learning downloads, you're going to see that you've got a lot of different recorded calls that you can get to here. So if you wanted to, maybe this is your first Coffee with Counterpoint and you wanted to see what other Coffee with Counterpoints I had done in the past, you'd have the ability to come in here and kind of scroll through and then click and download and listen to all of these different recordings. So, if you want to know more about setting up your stores or price rules or accounts receivable or whatever it might be, again, you're going to find I think there are close to 100 different recordings out here. Or maybe you've got your own IT department that works with the NCR partner, and it might be important for you to come to this support tab and then maybe under Counterpoint come over to the knowledge base. Maybe you're trying to troubleshoot a particular problem, or hey, maybe you want to see the latest features we put into Counterpoint. So again, I do think this particular user portal is very valuable to you. Now, the other and last thing on my resources slide is starting in version 8.5, we started putting Counterpoint on this the Counterpoint documentation on this website in our counterpointhelp.com. So whether or not you're on version 8.5, you can still get to this public website, and I find this very convenient. If I don't have Counterpoint up and running, but somebody asks me a question that I think I can get answered in the documentation, then I can just go to this URL on my phone, and maybe it was something about taxes in Counterpoint, and so I type tax or taxes or item, tax category, or whatever it is I'm looking for. I did something pretty generic, tax, and so I've got a lot of different articles that pop up. Do I want to know about value-added tax? Do I want to know about tax-inclusive pricing? So I've got a lot of different articles that have popped up, but again, I think it's very convenient that we now have this great search mechanism and all the point documentation, online help as we call it, here on this particular website. Okay, so we're going to get back over to the PowerPoint, and I wanted to talk about a feature we added in version 8.4, the cost discrepancy warning. So let's get back over to Counterpoint where I can show a little bit more of this. And so let me share my screen. And the idea with this feature we added had to do with warning somebody that we think the cost on a purchase order or receiving is incorrect. So I don't know if any of you have ever had somebody enter the wrong cost on an item and post it. Counterpoint has purchasing adjustments that let you kind of undo that mistake, but it still takes time to undo it, and nobody wants to make the mistake. So let's show you that over in Setup purchasing control, down here at the bottom, you can say, yes, I want to be warned if the cost is outside of a certain threshold. For me, I made that threshold 50%. So what happens now is if I'm entering a new purchase request, or if I'm processing a receiving, so it works the exact same way in receiving, I can auto-assign the order number. I can, tell Counterpoint which vendor I'm ordering for. I can come to the Lines tab. Maybe it's my belt buckle that I'm reordering. I'm getting 12 of them. And maybe the cost went up from $12 to $13, but my finger slips and I enter $130 instead. So you can see the feature immediately. It's turned that a shade of aqua so that we are able to see that we think there's a discrepancy. Now, if somebody ignores that and you try to post this, it's going to bring up a list of everything we found that was 50% outside the normal cost threshold, because I set 50% as my cost threshold. So, again, I think a great feature to help you try to not enter the wrong cost, but somebody made a typo. By the way, if you continue to, we don't stop them completely if they, don't first warning or the second warning, then we do actually let you post through that cost, because maybe it really did change by more than 50%. Table view mode is the next one I want to talk about, and so I'm going to come into the inventory item record to show this one. And so I'm now just looking at one item at a time as I'm scrolling through using my toolbar up here to scroll through one item at a time. But if I press the table view button, that's going to switch to a view of the data where now I'm looking at all of my items. And we've got a great feature called margin-driven pricing, where I can now see those items that are at or above my target margin because of the green up arrow. That's noting that. I can see this with a straight gray line is right at my target margin. And if I had anything red, there we go, there's a red down arrow. That's going to indicate it's below my target margin. So table view mode is a great way to switch the view of the data. Now, I showed it here in inventory, but throughout Counterpoint, you're going to see that table view icon. And one of my favorite places to use table view is actually in sales history. So I come into view tick history. Let's say I'm trying to find a certain ticket that my customer Mitch Lowry had. So here I could just scroll through, again, one at a time, or I could put it in table view mode. Now all of my customers are showing up, so I've got my my filter where I could say, hey, just show me everything with Mitch Lowry. So now I'm in table view mode for just Mitch's tickets, and as I scroll through, you'll see that down here I can see the items that were on that ticket. So that's going to let me go find the thing I'm looking for maybe a little bit easier than not being in table view mode and having to look at a time. So again, look for that table view icon wherever you are in Counterpoint, because that might just make it a little bit, a different view of the data that might be a little bit easier for you to find what you're looking for. This one I'm not going to switch back over to Counterpoint. Again, it is CP Mobile, which runs on all the iOS devices and iPhone and iPad and iPod Touch. And I just wanted to remind everybody that we let you do item and customer lookup at no charge. You can go to the Apple Store and download CP Mobile. You can read the instructions on pointing it to your server, or you might need your partner to help you point it to your server. But once you've done that, you have access to customer and item lookup, again, at no charge. Now, if you wanted to do a physical count with the mobile device, or a point of sale or receiving or an adjustment, those cost a monthly fee. But again, maybe for the holiday season, you want to just try out the free piece of CP Mobile on the iPad you already have or your iPhone. And so that might be something you think about doing before the holiday season starts. And I will say there was a time 2 years ago, I think, where we sent out a notice that said we were going to start charging something like $5 for this feature, but we didn't do that. We rescinded that. And again, item and customer lookup is no charge. I think this is the last one. It is. Yay. And then I'll try to cover some questions in the remaining time. But I just want to share that we've got a couple of reports that let you drill down. I just think a lot of people don't realize this is here, and so let me show you what I'm talking about. I am going to navigate over to sales history reports, and I'm going to go specifically to this one called customer by item. By the way, the item by customer report does the exact same thing. I'm going to choose that report. You'll notice there's different tabs where I could filter on different things, but I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to preview the report. So what it's showing me is here's my customer, John Smith, and here's what John's bought from me, and here's Mitch Lowry, and here's what Mitch has bought from me. Now, notice that Mitch has bought 124 belt buckles, but I may be wondering, did he buy them all on one ticket? Did he buy across different tickets? And what I can do is I can double-click on that, and that's going to drill down into the detail. I can see that Mitch indeed did buy 100 of those belt buckles on one ticket back in October of 2016, but then he bought a few more, at different times on different tickets. And so I can now go back to the original summary view, or again, I can double-click and get into the detailed view of certain lines. So not all Counterpoint reports let you drill down like this, but once I discovered that customers by item and items by customers did this, I've gone back to development and said, hey, can we make all the reports able to be drilled down into? So we'll see where that takes us. But for now, at least you know these two reports can do that. In fact, I think the point of sale exception report can do it as well. Okay, that does conclude my presentation, and gosh, I went over by 23 minutes, so I thought it was going to take me an hour, and it's because I talked about all those other things, but I really hope this was information for you. I hope you've all learned something, and what I'm going to do for those who want to stay on is I'm going to go open up the Q&A. Now, as I promised you earlier, if I don't get to your questions in today's session before we're done, and we have, about 8 minutes left, I will go through these over the rest of this week and early next week, and I will get you answers to your questions. Darn, the first one says, we are hearing nothing. Is the screen moving? Are you speaking? Darn it, I didn't see this clearly earlier, so hopefully you were able to figure out how to hear me turning your computer speakers up. But anyway, will we be able to access a copy of this information? Yes, I will send you PowerPoint, and I am recording this right now, so I will also send you a link to the recording as well. Let's see, will the devices load faster in 8.5.4? So yes, I said yes, but let me explain that. So one of the new features in 8.5.4 is an improvement in the device area, particularly if you're running over a wide area network. Now, I've heard from some of the partners that even if you're not on a wide area network, there are some improvements in the devices loading faster. Now, I did take you to the user portal where you could see new features. I also took you to the counterpointhelp.com, ncrcounterpointhelp.com, where we've got 854 listed, and you can go read a little bit more there about what we've done to improve device performance. Let's see, why does recently menu and favorite options don't have the same color for an option instead of how is now with the color changing between options? Well, okay, so that's how it was designed. So colors on main menu buttons are not meaningful. They're not meant to be meaningful. And please send me an email if you'd like us to change something. We're always open to considering that. And if having meaningful colors would be helpful, send me that along with why you think that would be meaningful, and I'll turn that into development. Let's see, Message Center. Can the employee be notified of a message during clock in or clock out? So if you got a message while you weren't logged in, we are going to have the message tray at the bottom say you've got mail, but I don't think we're going to pop anything up on the screen. I do think that's a great feature request. And by the way, Tim, if I didn't understand that that's part of the fun of reading what you wrote, is making sure I'm interpreting it correctly. So you can always just send me a one-off email. But I don't think there's a way, but I do think that's a good feature request to have something pop up when you clock in or log in that says, hey, you've got a message sitting out there. And I do think we notify you in the tray on the bottom right, the Windows tray, but I'll look further into that. Can miscellaneous charge item area be set as a percentage with a maximum charge amount? So the miscellaneous charges I showed earlier, it's dollar amount on the left, percentage on the right, so it could be a percentage of the ticket. I don't believe there's a way out of the box to say that there can be a maximum charge amount, but talk to your partner. That might be something they can customize for you. It's also something I can turn in as a feature request. What would help me, Ross, is if you would email me and tell me the business case. What is it you're trying to charge as a percentage, and what is the maximum and why? I know if I turn things into development and I can give them a good business case and understanding of why that's needed, it's always helpful in getting the feature put in. We know what version we're using currently. All right, well, let me share my screen again. Let's get back over to Counterpoint. And if you come down here to System, View, Environment, this is everything you ever wanted to know about your Counterpoint system but were afraid to ask. You'll notice there are multiple tabs. I won't drag you through every tab, but here I can see that I'm on version 8.5.3 with this service pack. So this shows you your serial number. If you're trying to log into that user portal and you don't know what your serial number is, now you know what it is. And this also shows you what version of Counterpoint you're on. All right, let's see what is next in that Q&A area. Hold on a second. It closed when I went and switched to PowerPoint, so let me go find it again. Let's see. Is there a ship-to file shipping addresses on customers' invoices without manually typing the address in per the invoice? So I'm not sure I understand. There is, in the customer record, there is you can have as many ship-to addresses per customer predefined that you want. So again, if I come back to my screen and come back to the customer area, here is the ship-to addresses. So John Smith doesn't have any, but I could have, John's Aunt Sally and his brother John, his brother Jim, his other brother John. And then at point of sale, if you're doing an order or a sale, you can have a ship-to address defined, or as many defined for a customer as you want. I don't know if that answered your question or not. So feel free to put additional questions in the Q&A manager, but that's sort of how I read it, is that you were looking, you want to have to type it in every time. You wanted to have something preset that you could pull in. Does the purchasing pop-up work if we use customer-specific or the purchase advice? I don't know, Eric. If you would send me an email with a little more information, that purchasing pop-up note that I showed is intended to pop up during a purchase request entry. Now, if you're doing a customer-specific purchase request, I don't know if it depends on what you're using to create the purchase order is, I think, what the answer is. So send me something offline, and we'll get into more detail on that. What is the lock for on the item screen? So there's something in Counterpoint called Allow Protected Changes. There's certain fields that we don't unlock unless somebody has permission to allow protected changes. So when you're setting up security settings, you can give someone permission to allow those. And then if they press the lock on a field that normally won't unlock, it will unlock for those people. I hope that made sense, Sam. So send me a follow-up if you have other questions on that. Are there pop-up notes in 8.4? Yes, absolutely yes. That was not an 8.5 feature. Matt Tweedy, how do you modify the toolbar globally? So let me share my screen. I'm not even sure I know exactly where this is, but I'm going to go give it a whirl. I think it's under Setup, System. See, Setup, System, Tool. Oh, you know what? Let's type toolbar here. See if we customize toolbars. So it's Setup, System, Configurations. And now again, do this in your test company. Please do not do this in your live company. And if it doesn't make sense, then contact your partner. But again, this is where you can come do some global changes to the toolbar. All righty, let's see what else we've got. Let me also take a quick peek. Oh, I'm past time. Let's just see what else is out there real quickly, and then what I'll do is we'll take one more question, and then again, I promise you I will respond to those of you who I didn't get to. Is the Min-Active ICE report available in 8.4? It is not. That was something we added to 8.5. Can we lead to the items per vendor? Yes. In the vendor item record, and this is the last question I'm going to take, and then I'll answer the rest of them offline. But let me go back over to Counterpoint, and I'll show this one, and then the session will be over. So let's see. If I come to Inventory Items, and I bring up a particular item, and come down here to the vendor item record, so you can set multiple vendors for an item. Now, I'm looking at getting this belt buckle from Hanson Manufacturing, and you'll see down in this bottom area there are 4 tabs. If I move to the Purchasing tab, I can actually type in a lead time. I can also auto-calculate it. So once you've got some history of entering purchase orders and receiving them, we can actually gauge that time and auto-calculate it for you as well. All right, so again, I really want to thank everybody for taking an hour and a half out of their busy day. I know sometimes it's hard to do that, but Counterpoint is such a great, robust product, and I will make a pledge to continue to try to educate you on these kinds of things. I encourage you to send me email Again, it's Andee, A-N-D-E-E, Williamson, WILLIAMSON, at ncr.com. And let me know if you learned something in today's session. Let me know what other topics I can do future webinars on. And again, thank you all so much for joining today's session.